The boat is destroyed. Inside and out is destroyed.
A rescue mission's underway for the British sailor stranded at sea during a round-the-world race.
Good morning. We're going to get through 300,000 tonnes of cardboard packaging this Christmas. So where does it all come from and where does it all end up? I'm at one of Europe's largest recycling plants for cardboard boxes to find out how we could be reusing more.
Good morning. A fresh row over Premier League tackling as it's confirmed that Liverpool defender Joe Gomez has broken his leg.
And good morning from the gorgeous surroundings of Lincoln Cathedral. We're talking severe gales today across parts of Scotland and western UK. Things turn colder this weekend. Plus, did you ever make one of these as a child? I'll be talking about their significance all morning here on Breakfast.
Good morning, it's Friday the 7th of December. Our top story today, at the end of one of the most turbulent weeks of her premiership, Theresa May has sent out 30 of her senior ministers to schools, hospitals and businesses across the UK to try and garner last-minute support for her Brexit deal.
The Prime Minister has just a few days left to convince reluctant MPs to back her withdrawal agreement before the vote on Tuesday. Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake is in Westminster for us this morning. Jonathan, so what, we're just over halfway of these 5 days of debates, aren't we, leading up to Tuesday? How do you see the land lying now?
Well, Naga, look out for a government minister near you today, because there might well be one. As you say, the Prime Minister has dispatched 30 or so ministers to fan out across the UK in a last-minute attempt to sell her Brexit deal. The Chancellor's going to a school in Chertsey, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Liz Truss, popping to a local butcher's in Norfolk, David Mundell, the Scottish Secretary, hosting a round-table discussion with business leaders in Glasgow. And this is all part of the attempt that we've seen over the last couple of weeks to almost bypass MPs, go straight to the general public and get them to buy into Theresa May's Brexit deal in the hope that public opinion will shift towards it and those people will put pressure on their MPs to vote in favour of it in Parliament. The trouble has been for Theresa May that even though she's been working hard here in Westminster to convince MPs directly as well, there's still plenty of them who are intending to vote against it. So what do you do if you're struggling to sell something? Well, she can't lower the price, so she's trying to throw in a few things for free. We've seen this attempt to get Parliament to agree to have more of a say in the event that the controversial backstop arrangement to prevent a hard border in Northern Ireland, if a trade deal can't be done, to give Parliament more of a say as to how, when and if that comes into force. The trouble is for the Prime Minister that she's already agreed with the EU in the withdrawal agreement, which is legally binding, that if that trade deal can't be done, the backstop will be needed, or the transition period and the negotiation period will need to be extended. So there's only really so much that Parliament can do, and certainly those dead set against the deal, the DUP, who prop up Theresa May's government, have said that this just isn't going to work, and also Conservative Brexiteers, who are staunchly opposed to her deal as well, have met this proposal with derision. But there will be more to come in terms of the government trying everything it can to convince MPs to vote for this deal when it comes before the House of Commons on Tuesday.
Jonathan, thanks for taking us through all of that. Jonathan Blake there.
The mobile network O2 has said all of its data services have been restored.
The company said a review will be carried out to discover why 32 million UK customers were unable to get online yesterday. Our correspondent John Donnison has more.
For many these days, life without a fully functioning smartphone is almost unimaginable. The cameras might have been working at this Christmas market in Manchester, but for 32 million O2 customers, not much else was.
We've not been able to basically use like Facebook. I don't think we can send messages either on iMessage.
Train times to get us home.
Yeah. So just not good, basically.
In London, bus arrival screens which work off the O2 network were also out of action. A first world problem, you might say, but also very much one of our time.
It's a digital catastrophe of the 21st century. We are out of internet, out of services, out of our loved ones nearby, out of capacity of payment.
The O2 network, owned by Telefonica, said the problem was a global one and down to equipment supplied by the telecoms firm Ericsson.
We know it's a software issue. It's impacted an Ericsson component, which has impacted networks across the globe. in Japan, in China, and of course here in the UK.
O2 says services should be back to normal this morning and that it will be carrying out a review with Ericsson. The question is now being raised as to whether customers might be able to claim compensation. John Donnison, BBC News.
The number of attacks on cash machines in the UK has nearly doubled in the last 4 years. That's according to one of the biggest ATM operators.
Cardtronics says there were more than 720 attempts to steal cash last year. Less than half were successful. Our personal finance correspondent Simon Gompertz has more.
Two thieves, their faces covered, getting ready to blow up a cash machine using gas. This is the explosion from the inside. The number of raids has been accelerating. There were 400 attacks in 2014. By last year, the annual total was 722, nearly double. In almost half the cases, thieves don't get the cash, but that doesn't stop them trying. In this raid, in a Cotswolds village, a stolen digger was used to smash the local bank's machine. Tougher policing in cities has pushed the ram raiding gangs into the country. Last month, another machine ripped out in South Lanarkshire. The smaller the neighbourhood, the more serious the impact.
ATM crime is not a victimless crime. It's an attack on the local community. It means that people can't get money out of a cash machine. Often you'll find the shop is damaged, which damages that business as well.
There's been a spate of cash machines being blown up using gas and more ram raids. Cardtronics says the UK has more attacks than anywhere else in Europe. It wants harsher sentences and better surveillance. Simon Gompertz, BBC News.
The father of a British tourist who's gone missing in New Zealand has made an emotional appeal for help in finding his outgoing, fun-loving daughter. Grace Millane, who turned 22 on Sunday, has not been in contact with her family since the 1st of December. Concerns are growing for her welfare.
In a press conference in Auckland, David Millane urged anyone who may have seen her to get in touch.
Grace is a lovely, outgoing, fun-loving, family-orientated daughter. Grace has never been out of contact for this amount of time. She's usually in daily contact with either her mother, myself, her two brothers, members of the family on social media.
A rescue mission is underway to reach a British sailor whose boat was destroyed in a storm during a solo round-the-world yacht challenge.
29-year-old Susie Goodall is the only woman taking part in the Golden Globe race. Her location in the Pacific is so remote, the nearest vessel is not expected to reach her until tonight. John Kay has more.
The boat is destroyed. Inside and out is destroyed.
This is the call Susie Goodall made after her boat flipped over. In the southern Pacific Ocean, alone, injured, and thousands of miles from dry land.
We rolled and I threw across the cabin and I think I was knocked out for a moment or two.
The 29-year-old set sail in July and was coming fourth in one of the world's most gruelling events when she hit a ferocious storm. Speaking before the race, she knew the southern would be the toughest part of her round-the-world challenge.
I'm sure there'll be times down there I just think, what the hell am I doing? This is horrendous. The boat is just like a rag doll. It's been chucked around all over the place and you can do nothing about it.
This Chinese cargo ship is the closest vessel to Susie. It's been diverted hundreds of miles through challenging seas to rescue her.
We're unsure whether they'll be able to launch a small boat to go over and recover her and come back and bring it on board again because of the sea state. If that's not possible, the captain's going to have to manoeuvre a 190-metre vessel, which is about 45,000 tonnes, as close as he can to the yacht, and Susie will literally have to jump.
On social media, she said all she wants is a nice cup of tea. John Kay, BBC News.
The body of the former US President George Bush Sr. has been laid to rest at his presidential library in College Station, Texas. After days of public tributes, including a state funeral in Washington, the casket travelled on a special train, slowing down through a number of towns along its 70-mile trip. He was buried in a private ceremony beside his wife Barbara and daughter Robin.
The international charity Doctors Without Borders says it's being forced to end migrant rescue operations in the Mediterranean carried out by ship the Aquarius. The organisation blamed the decision on what it called a sustained campaign of slander and obstruction by European governments. Aquarius had been the last charity rescue ship still operating.
A 7-year-old boy from Afghanistan who became famous online for his devotion to footballer Lionel Messi has been forced to flee his home for the second time. Murtaza Ahmadi went viral in 2016 after being photographed wearing a homemade Messi shirt, which he fashioned out of a plastic bag. His family says it's abandoned the home after receiving threats from the Taliban and has escaped to the capital, Kabul.
The lead singer of the punk rock band The Buzzcocks, Pete Shelley, has died at the age of 63. It's thought he suffered a heart attack in Estonia, where he was living. The band, who formed in the 1970s, are best known for their hit Ever Fallen in Love. The group have described him as one of the UK's most influential, prolific songwriters.
Musicians and fans have been paying tribute to him online. A tweet on the official Twitter page for the group describes him as one of the UK's most influential and prolific songwriters. The Charlatan singer Tim Burgess said his perfect 3-minute pop songs were the soundtrack to being a teenager.
And Peter Hook, who's co-founder of Joy Division in New Order, described him as a true gent, adding that he wouldn't be where he is today if it weren't for him. And we'll be talking a little more about Buzzcocks, Pete Shelley, throughout the programme this morning.
Yeah. It's 12 minutes past 6, time to talk sport. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, you know, often we talk about these brutal tackles and bad behaviour on the pitch, but Jurgen Klopp was really angry yesterday.
He was furious,
wasn't
not
he?
as angry
Manager
as,
of Liverpool.
Of course, and Sean Dyche, the manager of Burnley, he, incidentally, on Wednesday, this was a match between Liverpool and Burnley, and it was an awkward-looking tackle against Joe Gomez from Ben Mee. And at the time, after the match, actually, Sean Dyche seemed more upset. He seemed to think that there was an overreaction, and he's accused Liverpool of cheating, of falling over. But actually, it's now emerged Joe Gomez has actually broken his leg, and this has put tackling back on the agenda. Liverpool say that Joe Gomez will be out for up to 6 weeks. This was after a fracture on his lower leg in that win over Burnley on Wednesday night. Jurgen Klopp was really unhappy with the tackles in the game, but Burnley boss Sean Dyche says his side did nothing wrong. And 14 sports have been given a chunk of money to help them compete at the next Olympics. Skateboarding, table tennis and weightlifting are just 3 to benefit from UK Sports Aspiration Fund ahead of Tokyo 2020. And later today we could hear whether cricketers Alex Hales and Ben Stokes will be punished for bringing the game into disrepute following an incident outside a Bristol nightclub last year. They've been in front of a cricket disciplinary board. And a surprise exit at the UK Snooker Championships as former champion Judd Trump has been knocked out. He was beaten by Joe Perry, who will now play Tom Ford in the quarterfinals later today. Ronnie O'Sullivan in action later as well. And of course you can follow all the action which starts, the coverage starts at 1 p.m. on BBC Sport website.
Very good, thank you.
Earlier on when we were doing our headline rehearsals, Charlie, you held this up, didn't you? And what did you say, Holly?
That is my childhood. Straight away, as soon as I saw that, it just took me right back.
And it is what?
It's Chris Tingle. That's the Chris Tingle orange.
We've been, whole team's been learning a lot about this because a lot of us didn't know what this was.
I don't think even as a child you fully understood it, but it was great fun to make.
Do you know, that's
an orange with a candle stuck in the top.
Yeah, and they're sweets, and you've got to eat them eventually.
And the ribbon. They all have a meaning. They all have a meaning. Matt has one of these, and you might have seen him in the headlines with one of these as well. I bet you knew all about these, didn't you, over there in Lincoln Cathedral?
Good morning, Nugget. Yes, we certainly do. Here we go. There's one we made earlier as well. But yeah, first of all, let me just say very good morning from the gorgeous surroundings of Lincoln Cathedral. This is a spectacular structure perched on the hill up here in Lincoln. It's got almost 1,000 years of history. But the reason we are here is that Lincoln Cathedral has some significance to this, the Christingle. The very first Christingle service was brought to the UK 50 years ago, and there is a service this evening at 5:30 to commemorate that. Christingle, of course, we'll be talking more about it through the morning. It's all linked to the Children's Society as well, raising money for children at this time of the year too. And the significance, I said, we'll talk about as we go throughout the morning. But let's talk about the weather as well, because it is a day of some very severe weather for some of you, because we've got severe gales set to affect mainly parts of Scotland and western half of the UK. Could see 60, 70, maybe 80-mile-an-hour gusts across the far west of Scotland today. That could lead to some travel disruption as well. It's a day in which the winds will just get stronger and stronger for many of you, and it's all linked into that little deep area of low pressure just pushing into the northwest of Northern Ireland and into western parts of Scotland. But we've seen a weather front push its way southwards through the night. That has brought some very heavy rain across England and Wales, lots of surface water around at the moment, and pretty wet through the morning rush hour across England in particular. That quickly zips out the way though through the morning to bring sunshine and heavy thundery showers. Showers most frequent in the west, but the winds continue to pick up. As I said, widespread gales developing across the UK. Western half we could see 50, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, maybe 70 or 80 in parts of western Scotland especially. Temperatures at the highest this morning, they will drop through the day, probably only around 7 to 11 degrees by the time we finish the afternoon. So a much fresher end to the day as we see a mixture of clear skies and showers to take us into the night. Now it's going to stay windy through the night, particularly across western areas and the northeast of Scotland. That will stop the temperatures from dropping away too much, but further heavy and thundery showers, pretty lengthy ones in parts of northwest England and Northern Ireland too, to take us into the start of the weekend. But actually a lot of sunshine to start tomorrow morning. Still gales blowing for many of you. Winds will temporarily ease across some northern parts of Scotland as we go into the day, but after a bright start with just a few showers, more showers through the afternoon on Saturday. Some of those could be quite lengthy at times, particularly in the west. Temperatures back down into single figures across the northern half of the country, still around 10 to 12 Celsius in the south. Very windy through Saturday night into Sunday across England and Wales. The winds will ease down just a little bit into Sunday. Overnight rain will clear its way southwards. Lots of sunshine around on Sunday, a few showers here and there across the west. Those will turn increasingly wintry across northern Scotland, and what you'll notice by Sunday is a big drop in temperature. Winds coming down from the north. So much colder end to the weekend, but certainly today, Naga and Charlie, some very strong winds around this morning and into the afternoon, especially across Scotland and the northern half of the UK. I'll have more throughout the morning. Back to you both.
Matt, thank you. We'll see you later on. Let's have a look through some of the papers for you this morning, and we'll start with the front pages.
Now, the Telegraph is asking, what now, Prime Minister? It pictures Theresa May next to the Downing Street Christmas tree. The paper says ministers offered her 4 options, including a postponement of the vote, but came away exasperated when she refused to commit to any of them.
Concerns about the NHS leads in the Times, which report figures show that 5 million patients are forced to wait more than 3 weeks for a GP appointment every month. The paper also carries a picture of human rights lawyer Amal Clooney, who accepted a Global Citizen of the Year award in New York.
The Guardian also focuses on the NHS, suggesting that the Chief Executive, Simon Stevens, is at loggerheads with the government over how an extra £20 billion will be used. Picture there is of Michael Caines, who is just one of 2 black head chefs with a Michelin star in Britain, talking about the diversity or lack of diversity in the industry.
And the Daily Mail reporting on the mayhem suffered by 32 million smartphone owners left without mobile internet coverage because of those problems for O2. And the picture is of the actor Olivia Colman, plays Queen Anne in The Favourite. Nominated for a Golden Globe Award. We understand that all those problems with O2 networks are over. So that is good news, but lots of people were in a lot of problems yesterday. More than 30 million people.
Yeah. Well, frustrating. In some ways, though, it was quite liberating. Because you couldn't text. You had to use a Wi-Fi-based app to chat, if you could be bothered. And some of your emails weren't coming through when you weren't around any Wi-Fi, so it was actually, oh, can't do anything with that.
Yeah, a lot of people were very happy that, or unhappy, depending on your outlook, as they had to actually have physical conversations with people instead of texting people. My mother was struggling with it yesterday. She was trying to do some Christmas shopping and wanted to send ideas through
checking.
And thought I was ignoring her all afternoon, so I'm sorry, Mum, I wasn't ignoring you, but none of your messages were getting through.
So do you know what you're going to get?
Definitely not now, because the messages still haven't come through.
Ah, OK, so the mystery remains.
It remains a mystery. Thanks for that, O2. In the sports papers, we've got a bit of a sibling rivalry, which we love in sports consistently, but this time, this is 2 brothers from Antrim in Northern Ireland who have to face each other at the Men's Hockey World Cup in India. Now, the one plays for Ireland, one plays for England. One brother switched allegiances. This is the Gelghorn brothers, Paul and Mark. They both played together growing up, but one brother decided that he would have a better chance at the Olympics if he played for England, so he switched over. Unfortunately, that does mean for the first time they have to face each other on the international stage, and it's in a very, very important match as well, because the loser goes home.
Right. Are there any more of the family who play hockey, or just two of them?
Well, their father's a big fan. They come from a very sporting background. The father's a huge fan of hockey, and actually, up until now, what he tends to do is wear two shirts. So he'll wear one shirt over the other one, so there's no word yet on what he'll be wearing on top today. I don't know whether he'll be wearing the England shirt or Ireland shirt, but it puts him in a very difficult position, doesn't it? What would you do?
Who do you support?
Yeah, exactly.
Your favourite child on that day.
It is
Pick your favourite and go with it, Mr. Glyghorn.
I haven't got a story from the papers. I'm just going to draw attention to a thing I heard yesterday. You know, the Brexit debate was going on for all those hours and hours. And I found myself strangely glued to watching it. As it came to a conclusion, this was about 7:30 or 8 o'clock last night. I'm sure very few...
Getting an insight into Charlie's evening.
Well,
Lovely.
No, but oddly, people have questioned why are they debating? Quite a few of the MPs have said, what's the point of this? Because we've all made our minds up. So all we're doing is standing up and saying what we're going to do. So anyway, it is quite compelling once you start watching it. Anyway, the debate stops. Immediately afterwards, they have another session, which was, if I'm honest, a lot more interesting. Which was about it was a special motion about the welfare of seahorses. And so there was a bill. There was a bill that was brought to Parliament about what are we doing to save the seahorse. And I watched that for about 15 or 20 minutes. Absolutely compelling. 33 species of seahorse, I can tell you, in the world. Only 2 of them found in shores around the UK. What else? There's an illegal trade in seahorses, you maybe know. But it's a real problem. And the only 2 around the UK, the only 2 species of seahorse around the UK are short and long-snouted seahorses. Those are the only 2, short and long-snouted seahorses.
Just in case you were at all concerned, this wildlife programme will continue over on BBC Two.
Well, who doesn't love a seahorse?
No, we do, Charlie, and it's...
Not as much as you.
We've got a picture of the seahorse now we can show right now. Just to show us... No, we haven't got a picture of it. Anyway...
We'll get a short nose
as much as you, right?
Well, I'm just saying that in amongst the madness of Brexit, other things are discussed in Parliament, including something about seahorses.
Save the seahorse, people. Hashtag save the seahorse.
I'm sharing that with you, that's all.
I'm glad you brought that.
I
didn't see it, the point being, I didn't see it in any of the papers, so I couldn't, you know...
Guys, you've all missed a trick. This whole industry's missed a trick. 22 minutes past 6 is...
As part of our Educating UK series, Breakfast, Jane McCubbin spent the day with one new physics teacher in Manchester.
The government has missed recruitment targets for the 6th year running. The last snapshot taken showed 22% of new teachers were not teaching after 2 years, a third by the 5th year, 40% were gone by year 10. Though many later returned, heads and unions say this is a national crisis.
We have more teachers leaving, so therefore there's a bigger gap. We have more pupils in the system, so we have an even bigger gap. And then a lot of new teachers who are coming in and want to do a really, really good job, but because the gap is so significant, the workload becomes too much.
So how did your Year 8 lesson go?
At break time, a catch-up with her mentor. Adam is in Year 5 of his new career and feeling the pressure.
We've had massive changes in the GCSE the last year.
Stressful.
So, very stressful, and the funding's a massive problem.
Can you see yourself getting to the 10-year mark, or will you be one of the 40% that decide to bow out?
I'd hope I wouldn't be one of the 40%. I hope that things don't get to that point.
The Department for Education told us they have taken steps to improve teachers' work-life balance and pay, and while there is more money going into education than ever before, they recognise the challenges schools face.
OK, Year 8.
Education has been protected from cuts more than other sectors, but schools have still faced a cut.
Have a good weekend.
The police were going through exactly the same thing. Their budgets were getting slashed, and it was really noticeable. And I just hope that it doesn't go the same way, because these are our children's lives in the future, and they need to be able to excel.
After an hour of prep for tomorrow, today draws to a close. Teach First, which recruited and trained Mrs Smallwood, say there are 300,000 teachers in the UK who aren't currently teaching. Schemes like this hope to entice some of them back to join brand new recruits, hopefully for good.
It's a steep learning curve, but it has been really, really good. I can see it being my future. Yeah.
New teachers, can you imagine just the hope of trying to make a difference?
It's daunting, isn't it? Daunting. So much expected of them and a lot of pressure.
Indeed. Well, Jane will be carrying on with that series on education throughout the coming weeks as well. It is time to get the news, travel and weather where you are this morning. We'll see you soon.
Good morning from BBC London News. I'm Victoria Hollins. A 28-year-old is suing the Met Police after his name and address appeared on a leaked gangs list. Lawyers for the man, whose name was included on the document in Newham, claim he's been left fearing for his safety after a relative got hold of the information and sent it to him. The Information Commissioner's office is carrying out an investigation into Newham Council over the alleged breach. Business leaders in London have published a list of key things they say employers in the capital want to see after Brexit. Lobby group London First says scrapping migration targets and capping wages are top of their list, according to a new report. They'd also like to see more homegrown talent trained up, but say this alone can't currently plug the gaps if migrants leave in numbers.
We thrive as a city, we survive as a city because of international workers. We need migrants to keep coming here, and that's why we need a system that is fair and managed, and a system that balances both the need for access with the need for sensible controls.
Thames Water has reported a large fall in half-year profits and says extreme weather has hindered its ability to fix leaks and overhaul its infrastructure. The company said the cold winter earlier this year had caused pipes to burst, while the summer heat wave had brought supply problems. Pre-tax profits fell by nearly half to £67 million, down from £129 million a year earlier. OK, let's get a look at the travel situation then. And it's pretty good news if you're using the tube this morning, because currently all tube lines are running well. There are, though, minor delays on London Overground. That's from Stratford to Richmond and Clapham Junction and Euston to Watford Junction. Turning to the roads then, and traffic is already starting to build on the A13 into town from the Goresbrook interchange, and Pentonville Road is closed eastbound from Barron Street to A1 Islington High Street. That's for gas main work. So to the weather with Mel Coles.
Good morning. It's a soggy start to the day. We've got some heavy rain around at the moment, but that will gradually clear, so the skies will start to brighten up, but it will be a blustery day. Now, at the moment, temperatures are in double figures underneath all this cloud and with the rain. There are going to be some heavy bursts in here before it clears out towards the east later this morning to leave brighter skies. It will remain windy throughout the day, and there may be 1 or 2 showers this afternoon, and those temperatures dipping as we head through the day, so a maximum of around 9 Celsius this afternoon. Heading into this evening, well, it's a very similar regime. We keep those winds gusting at around 30 to 35 miles an hour, some dry clear spells, but also 1 or 2 blustery showers in the mix too, and temperatures dipping down to lows of around 5 Celsius. So we're in for a fairly windy weekend, particularly later on Saturday and into Sunday. Through Saturday, some of the showers could merge together to form longer spells of rain. Sunday will start off with a few showers, but it looks as though it will be an improving picture.
Sounds good. Right, I'm back with the latest from the BBC London newsroom in half an hour. There is, of course, plenty more on our website at the usual address, bbc.co.uk/London. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Good morning, welcome back. You're watching Breakfast with Charlie State and Naget Monchetti.
Time exactly 6:30. All the latest news and sport coming up in a moment.
There's lots coming up on the programme this morning. First of all, we've sent Ben to Europe's biggest cardboard and paper recycler. Look at all that in there. He's finding out what we can do to reduce the amount of packaging we use. Remember, Christmas is the time for wrapping.
Also this morning, British sailor Susie Goodall was in 4th position in a round-the-world race, but a storm destroyed her yacht. That was 3 days ago. She's still in the Pacific Ocean waiting to be rescued. We'll be speaking to the founder of the race, finding out exactly how that rescue operation is going just after 8 o'clock.
After 9 o'clock, we're going to be joined by reality TV star turned singer. This is Megan McKenna. Was formerly Towie star, but she's just released her first album. She's going to come talk to us about it.
All that coming up a little later. Now, a summary of this morning's main news. At the end of one of the most turbulent weeks of her leadership, Theresa May has sent out 30 of her senior ministers to schools, hospitals and businesses across the UK to try and gather last-minute support for her Brexit deal.
The Prime Minister has just a few days left to convince reluctant MPs to back her withdrawal agreement before a vote in the Commons on Tuesday.
The mobile network O2 has said all of its data services have been restored. The company blamed a software problem and said a review will be carried out to discover why 32 million UK customers were unable to get online yesterday. Let us know if that is your experience this morning. I think we're getting 1 or 2 contacts from people saying they're still not able to use the system.
I know one thing that helped. It might not help. I restarted my phone. That kick-started it. But do let us know. Keep in touch. And if it seems ironic to say get in touch with us if you can't get in touch via your phone, but you can email us perhaps. Other news to bring you. The father of a British tourist who has gone missing in New Zealand has made an emotional appeal for help in finding his outgoing, fun-loving daughter. Grace Mullane, who turned 22 on Sunday, hasn't been in contact with her family since the 1st of December. Concerns are growing for her welfare. In a press conference in Auckland, David Mullane urged anyone who may have seen her to get in touch.
The number of attacks on cash machines in the UK has nearly doubled in the last 4 years. That's according to one of the biggest ATM operators. Cardtronics says there were more than 720 attempts to steal cash last year. Less than half were successful. The company says the thefts are highly dangerous and often involve ram raids or gas explosions.
Oxford and Cambridge universities accept more students from just 8 private schools than from almost 3,000 English state schools put together, according to research by social mobility charity the Sutton Trust. It says that universities need to do more to attract students from a wide range of backgrounds. Oxford and Cambridge say they welcome the idea of providing more support to improve access.
Families with young children are being warned about the danger of button batteries following the death of a child who'd swallowed one, commonly found around the house in toys, remote controls and car fobs. The small round batteries can cause serious internal burns if ingested.
A rescue mission is underway to reach a British sailor whose boat was destroyed in a storm during a solo round-the-world yacht challenge. 29-year-old Susie Goodall is the only woman taking part in the Golden Globe race, and her location in the Pacific is so remote that the nearest vessel isn't expected to reach her until tonight.
The lead singer of the punk rock band The Buzzcocks, Pete Shelley, has died at the age of 63. It's thought he suffered a heart attack in Estonia, where he was living. The band, who formed in the 1970s, are best known for the hit, you can hear it there, Ever Fall in Love. The group would describe him as one of the UK's most influential and prolific songwriters.
We'll be looking back on his life and his influence on the music scene a little later in the programme. Time now is 25 minutes to 7. It's time to talk to Holly. Good morning.
Good morning.
What are we talking about in the sport?
Oh, Joe Gomez. A lot of the back pages featuring a very pathetic-looking picture of poor Joe in crutches this morning. This is after Burnley and Liverpool's game on Wednesday night. And now there was a pretty horrific-looking tackle, and at the time, Sean Dyche described it, the Burnley manager, as a fantastic tackle. Well, I think Jurgen Klopp might disagree. This has put tackling back on the agenda, of course, with Liverpool confirming that Joe Gomez has broken his leg. He'll be out for up to 6 weeks. This was, of course, during their win over Burnley on Wednesday night. And Burnley boss Sean Dyche, he has defended his player, saying it was a fantastic tackle, but Jurgen Klopp wasn't happy with any of the challenges, comparing it to 10-pin bowling.
I really think the ref should have said earlier something. So I told Mr. Dean that if you don't say be careful, they do it until something happens, and exactly that happens. You say now it's no foul. I don't know if it's a foul or not, but it was a challenge. You can on wet grass, you cannot judge the tempo, nothing. You put him away, and the injury threat is massive.
And staying with football, Manchester United's Marianne Fellaini won't be punished for pulling the hair of Arsenal's Matteo Guendouzi. It happened in their 2-2 draw at Old Trafford. Loads of Arsenal fans furious with Fellaini, but the FA won't take further action because the referee saw it and awarded a free kick. The Arsenal boss, Unai Emery, says there's a simple way to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I think the best is for the next match, cut the air for for Matteo, and this problem is finishing. Like as a Fellaini.
He wouldn't be allowed to cut it. Now, 14 sports have been given a chunk of money to help them compete at the next Olympic and Paralympic Games. Wheelchair basketball is the biggest beneficiary from UK Sports Aspiration Fund. Skateboarding, weightlifting and table tennis have also been given money. Many of these sports lost their funding after the last Games, and the aim is to give athletes the best chance to compete at Tokyo 2020. And we'll be live from London's largest indoor skate park in Dagenham in just over an hour's time to find out more. Now, Ben Stokes and Alex Hales should find out today if they'll face any further punishment after that fight outside a nightclub in Bristol last year. Stokes was found not guilty of affray in court earlier this year, but has spent the last couple of days in front of a disciplinary panel alongside Hales. They're both charged with bringing cricket into disrepute. The disgraced cyclist Lance Armstrong says an investment in the taxi app Uber has saved his family. He was stripped of his 7 Tour de France titles and banned for life in 2012 because he admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs, and that meant he's had to pay more than £90 million in settlements and legal fees. But he says he's made tens of millions of pounds from a relatively small investment he made in Uber when the company was just starting out. And there's been a couple of surprise exits at the UK Snooker Championships in York. Former champion Judd Trump has been knocked out. The world number 5 came in as one of the favourites, but was beaten by Joe Perry, who will now play Tom Ford in the quarterfinals later today. And over on the other table, 2-time champion Ding Junhui was beaten by Martin O'Donnell. He'll now face defending champion Ronnie O'Sullivan in the last 8. Now, forget ball boys, how about ball dogs? Check it out. These guys are helping with the Champions Tennis event that's being held at the Royal Albert Hall at the moment. They've had good training as well. Tim Henman's been involved. He says they need lightning speed, endless endurance and good concentration. This dog, however, does seem to lack both those things. And to be honest, any dogs I know, that's probably exactly what they would do. Oh, and there you go, of course. There's no better way to actually teach a dog than to do it yourself. It didn't seem to work either, though.
So they are, in theory, retrieving the balls.
Retrieving the balls, some better than others, mind you. Any dogs I've ever tried to teach how to fetch That's the problem. It's getting it back off them again. So I don't think they'd work very well in tennis, would they? Could you imagine?
I taught my cat to play fetch.
Play
cats.
fetch?
I've had 2 cats that can play fetch.
And they do it successfully.
Yeah.
They struggle with a tennis ball, presumably.
Yes.
What do you get them to fetch you?
Tiny little play mice.
Yeah,
they're clever.
She's so smug about her cat, isn't she?
I am.
Let's see, time now 6:39.
This morning, we are remembering Buzzcocks frontman Pete Shelley, who has died suddenly at the age of 63.
In a tweet, the band described him as one of the UK's most influential and prolific songwriters, a sentiment held by music journalist John Robb, who is our guest this morning. Very morning to you, John.
Good morning, yeah.
You knew him well, didn't you? I mean, did just anything about his health? Did you know he was not well?
No, I didn't. No, not at all. No. I mean, he was 63. He was young. Been touring like all his life. Complete shock. It's utter shock. Yeah.
He lived in Estonia, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Which I actually go there a lot. So my friend actually lives next door to me, which is kind of weird, isn't it? It's a nice place. I'm not running down Estonia, but he had family there, so he had, you know, he got married going to Estonia. So yeah, but he's from here. He's one of ours, isn't he? He's Northwest. Brilliant songwriter.
Yeah, take us back to those early days and that song. Maybe we can we play a little bit now, because it probably is the song that the band
everybody
is best known
knows.
for. Yes.
Yeah.
Can we just play that now? We can't play that yet. But tell us a little bit of the influence of the Buzzcocks.
Oh, it's enormous. I mean, to me, I think he's one of the greatest melody writers this country's ever produced. I mean, he's as good as the Beatles were, you know, totally up there. Fantastic lyrics. He wrote about all the complexities of love in a very simple way, a beautiful way. They're very important in punk rock, and also culturally as well, I think, because he brought the Sex Pistols up to Manchester to do that gig, which was a catalyst for the whole Manchester and the North West scene. And also they put out the first independent record in early 1977. So there's so many things that were so important they did, like musically, culturally, and at every single level possible. Yeah.
Well, let us, I mean, we were playing a little there, you couldn't hear it. Let's play a little bit of It's Ever Fallen in Love, which is probably the song that most people know them for. Let's play it now.
John, how did the band start?
When they started at college, they were like an art college, well, in Lee or Bolton, and they read The Enemy as a review of the Sex Pistols. They went down to London to see the Sex Pistols. It's the pre-internet age where you have no idea where to find these bands. They had to stumble upon a gig because they wanted to form a punk band, but no one knew what a punk band was. And they went back and they formed the first punk band in the northwest of England.
This is in 1975?
Well, it was 76, very early 76. And then they put the Sex Pistols gig on so they could play as well. But they couldn't play the first one because they weren't even ready at the time. So it was so naive and so innocent, so beautiful the way it was all done. But he transcended all that because he was such an incredibly talented, gifted songwriter. I think this is important to remember. I mean, the song that everybody knows, the one you just played, just one of like so many songs that he wrote were great. You know, I think if people only know that song, it's worth investigating all the other stuff that he did as well.
And have they been performing more recently? Had he been working?
Yeah, yeah. They split up for a long time, then they reformed. In the last 20 years, they've been touring the world non-stop. I mean, they worked hard. But their gigs were great. They were like jukebox gigs. You know, every single song you go, oh God, that one's brilliant. Oh God, that one's brilliant. I don't think they wrote a bad song. I mean, I am a fan, obviously, but I think they're just that great, you know. I think the one that, to me, the tragedy of the band is they got big, but they should have been bigger. They should have been #1. They always got to about number 10 or 15 in the charts. They should have been like the Beatles. The quality of songwriting was good enough to be that kind of level.
Lots of people talk about when people pass, they say, oh, he was a really good person. But that is like, the word nice, modest, these are words that have been used around him.
I interviewed him so many times, and you say to Pete, you say, you start the whole Manchester music scene, you go, no, it wasn't me. You know, he would never take the credit for anything. He never took the credit for being the first independent record. All the massive influence, all those massive bands were saying Buzzcocks, one of the key parts of our cultural DNA, that Pete would never take the credit for this, ever. You know, but he also had a brilliant memory as well.
How do you explain what they did with the Manchester music scene? Because you spoke about them having an independent label and putting their own music out. But what would they do and bring the Sex Pistols up?
That Pistols gig in '76, I mean, the Pistols had played outside London a few times, but that was a key gig. It's the first time the Pistols realised they had an audience outside London. I think what Buzzcocks did and what Pete did was he took punk rock away from this small group of 50 people in London, gave it to Manchester, then by extension the whole world. I think that was their cultural thing.
And something tells me that, as you described a moment ago, there may be people who are not that familiar with their music. And as is often the case, when someone dies, they're drawn to it, aren't they? That often happens.
Yeah, and it's a celebration which celebrates this incredible mercurial talent of Pete Shelley. And the people out there watching this show at the moment who don't really know the stuff, please go and listen to them, because there's so many great songs there. You know, it's not just that one song, and it's a fantastic song anyway. But there's like the first 3 albums, there isn't a bad song on there. Every single song is fantastic.
Good to see you here this morning, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, John. It's coming up to 6:45. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast. Matt is taking a look at the weather this morning, and he's at Lincoln Cathedral for us, marking 50 years since the first Chris Dingle service was held there, Matt.
Good morning. Yes, certainly is. Naga, very good morning to you. We are indeed in the gorgeous surroundings of Lincoln Cathedral this morning. We've mentioned Chris Dingle over the past hour or so, but here holding examples of